An upstate man scheduled to be executed by firing squad Friday. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, that's the first firing squad execution in the United States in 15 years, the first ever in South Carolina. Our Taylor Farmer sat down with the Greenville County coroner, who shared his files on that case only with 7 News.
It's been more than 20 years since a man killed his ex-girlfriend's parents in their home here on East Darby Road in Taylors. This week, he's scheduled to be put to death by firing squad.
In 2001, Brad Sigmund took the lives of his ex-girlfriend's parents, Gladys and David Lark, inside their home in Greenville County.
Both were brutally murdered.
According to the Greenville County Coroner's Office, their deaths were extremely gruesome.
Mrs. Lark, you could obviously tell she had some type of defensive wounds, so she tried to defend off her attacker.
Court records state the Larks were repeatedly hit on their heads with a baseball bat by Sigmund.
I remember that Mrs. Lark was actually sitting in a chair. Mr. Lark, he was on the floor, and both had multiple blunt force injuries that we could see immediately.
Greenville County Coroner Mike Ellis says at the time it wasn't obvious what object had been used to kill the Larks until the bat was found in the home.
We did find a blunt object. It appeared to look like some type of bat with multiple blood and hair on the weapon at the scene.
According to court records, when Sigmund's ex-girlfriend Rebecca Barber arrived at the home, Sigmund then forced her into a car. Word told Barber jumped out of the moving car. Sigmund got out, chased her, and fired a gun at her several times. Barber was injured but survived. According to court records, Sigmund went to Tennessee where he was captured 10 days later.
Police officers were on top of me in Greenville continuously.
Those records also revealed Sigmund had been smoking crack cocaine and drinking alcohol the evening before the killings. A South Carolina jury found Sigmund guilty of 2 counts of murder in 2002. He was sentenced to death for the murders. Sigmund's attorneys filed for clemency with Governor Henry McMaster, hoping instead of death, his sentence can be changed to life in prison without parole. When asked last week if he would grant Sigmund clemency, this was McMaster's response.
I have great confidence in our legal system, our system of justice in the country, and especially in South Carolina, and the law.
Sigmund's execution is scheduled for Friday, March 7th in Columbia. In Greenville County, Taylor Farmer, 7 News.
We mentioned the firing squad. Sigmund was given a choice with firing squad, electric chair, or lethal injection.
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at the international, political, and market responses to President Donald Trump's new tariffs. The price just went up for the U.S.'s top trading partners, and it's no surprise. Canada, Mexico, and China are trashing the tariffs.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. This is a very dumb thing to do.
The White House published an offensive and defamatory statement without substance about the Mexican government that we categorically deny and condemn.
Imports from Mexico and Canada now carry a 25% tariff, while goods from China saw a 10% increase, bringing those levies to 20%.
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set.
All 3 countries are retaliating. Canada imposing 25% and China 10 to 15% tariffs on certain U.S. imports. Mexico will announce measures on Sunday. President Donald Trump said he's using tariffs to punish Canada and Mexico for not solving the fentanyl problem and for taking too much from the U.S. economy without giving enough in return.
So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
Target and Best Buy are saying consumers will likely see price increases over the next few days. Experts say food, electronics, toys, appliances, cars, and car parts could become costlier. The top issue during the campaign was the economy. Trump promised, quote, inflation will vanish if he won. Now, some Republicans are acknowledging prices will go up.
If I have to pay a little bit more for something, I'm all for it to get America right again, to start whittling down this $36.5 billion or $1 trillion worth of debt that we have that's unsustainable.
Do you think that a lot of your constituents feel the same way? They're willing to pay a little bit more?
Well, I think so.
On close of business Tuesday, key stock market indices were near election day levels, meaning almost all of the gains since election day have been erased.
As tariffs against major U.S. trade partners are set to take effect, President Trump is now announcing he's imposing tariffs on international agricultural products. The president posted to Truth Social Monday, "To the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external product on April 2nd. Have fun." The president did not provide much more detail on which products would be affected or if there would be any exceptions. But USDA data shows tariffs on agriculture imports would hit the market for fruit, vegetables, and nuts, typically accounting for at least half of inbound crop shipments into the country. Support for agricultural tariffs is mixed, with some farmers supporting it as a strategy to push for fairer trade deals and to protect American industries. But some others are concerned about the negative impacts on their businesses. During Trump's first term in 2018, he directed then U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue to put together a short-term relief strategy to protect agricultural producers while working on free, fair, and reciprocal trade deals to help American farmers compete globally. A study from Iowa State University in 2019 found that farmers generally viewed Trump's trade disruption as a shorter-term pain, long-term gain phenomenon, with around 54% saying they were more optimistic about future growth. The president's latest announcement on agriculture tariffs comes as the U.S. plans to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting Tuesday. Chinese imports are also expected to get hit with another 10% tariff at midnight after the president already imposed a 10% levy on Chinese imports earlier this year.
9 buildings scattered across the state, but the one behind us, this is the most recognizable, the JFK building here in Government Center. This is one of the two 26-story towers that have been a fixture here since the 1960s. The Tip O'Neill building near the Garden also on the list. Other federal buildings are scattered, as we mentioned, across the state from Pittsfield to Andover to Fall River. The General Services Administration says it's identified 440 federal buildings across the country that it considers non-core assets. It projects annual cost savings of more than $400 million with these sales. Senator Warren and Markey both have offices in the JFK Federal Building here in Government Center. The impact on those offices is not clear. And the mayor of Fall River says that city stands to lose a Social Security office, which he says would hurt people there.
Well, it's unnerving. That's a very, very busy Social Security office in Fall River, as I told you. Drive by there 3 or 4 times a day. It's right on Main Street. And there's always a line. And even when you go inside, it's one of those places, it's the old style, take a number and they call them all day. And there's always a backup. It seems like 10 or 15 people. So that's going to be a punch in the gut for the city of Fall River.
Certainly a large announcement, an impactful announcement today. It is not clear the timeline of these potential sales or what happens to all of the people who work in all of these federal buildings.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has reportedly agreed to help facilitate talks between President Donald Trump and Iran over its nuclear program. According to Bloomberg, sources say Trump expressed interest in negotiating with Tehran on nuclear issues and discuss Iran's ongoing support for anti-U.S. proxies in the Middle East. The people Bloomberg cites are anonymous sources who say they were familiar with talks Trump had with Putin during a phone call last month. In addition to that conversation, Trump administration officials also reportedly discussed potential communication with Iran during a recent summit with Russian officials in Saudi Arabia. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated that Russia supports a negotiated solution between the U.S. and Iran and is willing to assist. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman also acknowledged that multiple parties may express goodwill and a willingness to mediate talks. While some Iranian officials signal a potential for negotiations, others seem skeptical given Iran's supreme leader's feelings over the U.S. Back in August, under the Biden administration, Iran's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said he was open to negotiations. But last month, Khamenei shut that door to potential talks with President Trump. Trump has restored what he calls a maximum pressure campaign against Iran, issuing 2 rounds of sanctions on oil sales early on, which is Iran's moneymaker. Iran's president, who takes orders from the Ayatollah and the mullahs, said over the weekend, "My belief was that talks are better, but the supreme leader has said we do not negotiate with the U.S., and we will go forward in the direction of the statements of our top leader." This comes at a pivotal time as tensions continue to escalate over Iran's nuclear program. The Wall Street Journal reported last week Iran has enough highly enriched uranium to produce at least 6 nuclear weapons. A recent report from the International Atomic Energy Agency revealed Iran's stockpile of uranium enriched up to 60% has surged to over 600 pounds as of February. That's a significant increase from just November, when Iran's stockpile was reported to be 200 pounds. This level of enrichment, the agency says, is just a technical step away from reaching the 90% purity required for making nuclear weapons. In one of Trump's executive orders, the White House's goal is to implement a robust and continual campaign to drive Iran's export of oil to zero. Iran's behavior threatens the national interest of the U.S. It is therefore in the national interest to impose maximum pressure on the Iranian regime to end its nuclear threat. The U.S. may be preparing to return nuclear weapons to British soil for the first time since 2008. A new report from the Federation of American Scientists says satellite images and military procurement documents suggest extensive upgrades at RAF Lakenheath, the largest U.S. Air Force-operated base in the UK. The report says construction has been underway since at least 2021, with additional upgrades accelerating after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Lakenheath previously housed U.S. nuclear weapons during the Cold War, but they were removed when tensions with Moscow appeared to ease. The report says underground vaults designed to store nuclear warheads have been refurbished, protective aircraft shelters upgraded, and a secure dormitory for nuclear personnel is under construction. A Pentagon budget document listed Lakenheath among sites receiving upgrades for special weapons storage, a term often associated with nuclear armaments. An Air Force personnel document also added Lakenheath as a possible assignment location for nuclear weapons specialists. While the U.S. has not confirmed any nuclear deployment, the report suggests these upgrades could enable the rapid transfer of warheads from other NATO bases if a crisis occurs. The Kremlin previously warned that any return of U.S. nuclear weapons to the U.K. would be considered an escalation, promising what it called compensating countermeasures. Russia has already stationed tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus and continues modernizing its own arsenal. RAF Lakenheath is home to the U.S. Air Force's F-35A Lightning II fighter jets, which are certified to carry nuclear weapons. The reported upgrades align with NATO's broader modernization efforts, which include infrastructure enhancement at nuclear storage sites in Germany, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Neither NATO nor the U.S. formally addressed the latest upgrades at Lakenheath.
And won counties in our country, 2,700 to 525, on a map that reads almost completely red for Republican.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber. Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
Thank you. This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad. And it just shouldn't be this way. So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again. $2 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education, the most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud. And we've taken back the money and reduced our debt to fight inflation and other things. Taken back a lot of that money. We got it just in time. This is just the beginning. The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old. It lists 3.6 million people from ages 110 to 119. I don't know any of them. I know some people that are rather elderly, but not quite that elderly. 3.47 million people from ages 120 to 129. 3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them, and we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid, and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby. Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229, one person between the age of 240 and 249, and one person is listed at 360 years of age. More than 100 years older than our country. But we're going to find out where that money's going, and it's not going to be pretty. By slashing all of the fraud, waste, and theft we can find, we will defeat inflation, bring down mortgage rates, lower car payments and grocery prices, protect our seniors, and put more money in the pockets of American families. And today, interest rates took a beautiful drop, big, beautiful drop. It's about time. And in the near future, I want to do what has not been done in 24 years, balance the federal budget. We're going to balance it. With that goal in mind, we have developed in great detail what we are calling the Gold Card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship. It's like the Green Card, but better and more sophisticated. And these people will have to pay tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The money that they've made, you wouldn't want to do that, but they have to pay tax, create jobs. They'll also be taking people out of colleges and paying for them so that we can keep them in our country instead of having them being forced out. Number one, at the top school, as an example, being forced out and not being allowed to stay and create tremendous numbers of jobs and great success for a company out there. So while we take out the criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country, we will now bring in brilliant, hardworking, job-creating people They're going to pay a lot of money, and we're going to reduce our debt with that money. Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk-takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again.